thanks again for joining us this evening. A brief synopsis of where we are at. So obviously we're in a pandemic. Everybody knows that. Real estate brokerage was identified as an essential service. So it was known right from the beginning that our agents, our firm would need to help you as buyers and sellers in the marketplace, regardless of anything else, regardless of COVID. So we as a leader in the industry and our agents as leaders in the industry made great efforts to ensure that we were able to provide services to you, the public, from the competition to help you and our agents to help you. So we had things like, electronic funds transfer, electronic signature processing documents virtually, do things virtually. Some of the new things we implemented with the COVID, with the pandemic, was to have virtual, sort of like a virtual in-house. We were a leader in the marketplace here in Toronto in doing virtual open houses. We have 30, 40, 50 virtual open houses going on in April when many other firms were still trying to understand how they would serve the public, such as yourself. So we certainly had a leading edge and are continuing to serve you in a virtual, safe manner. And things like, obviously, physical distancing, protective equipment, plexiglass, is just like you're familiar with now, of course, with grocery shopping or going to Costco or anything else, all very safe for you to be able to transact real estate now and in the future, regardless of whether there's a pandemic or not. So I just wanted to begin there. I wanted to make sure that safety was the first and most important theme that we covered with you tonight. And please, again, if you have any questions, contact your REMAX Realtron agent who's a professional. And we've had a lot of professional development sessions with them to ensure that they are cutting edge in terms of the knowledge they have to serve you well in this marketplace. And so everybody had a good laugh with Bernie Sanders, and they placed him all over the place. I don't know if you had heard in the media more recently, but the federal agency responsible for housing in Canada, called the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, or CMHC, has had some very dismal prognosis about the market. And once again, really just 2-3 weeks ago, they had some really dismal forecasts that we're going to see a big drop in the marketplace. So this is meant as a bit of a check on reality here for everybody. Certainly you would not wanted to have waited for a price reduction that CMHC had forecast. They forecast an 18% price reduction in April, and prices are really up 10 to 20% in many marketplaces right now. So it's absolutely the opposite of what they predicted. So again, these are the things that your REMAX Realtron Realtor can help you to get a better understanding of the market and what's happening and why prices are going up and they're not going down. So a little bit of a fun slide here with Bernie Sanders, placing him obviously in the CMHC world. And so housing has always been a very important thing for Canadians. They have invested significantly in housing, whether it's new construction or resale activities, which is what our agents help out with, the buying and selling of homes in the marketplace, both new and resale homes. And so the actual activity in the third quarter of 2020, amazing, $160 billion. So that is a record. It's a record since they've ever been taking statistics at Stats Canada. And so that means, and it's even higher than 2017, right? So for those of you who recall or are in the marketplace, there was a huge sort of peak in investment in the market in 2017 before there was the foreign buyer speculation tax that was brought in, and the market had a bit of a slowdown there, a bit of a pause. And so Canadians are recognizing anytime, but certainly during the pandemic, that housing is a great investment, that they are served well by obviously living in a home that they own. They want to own a home, they want to buy a home, they want to trade up in homes, and they want to invest in their homes, whether it's renovations or improvements, that sort of thing. So certainly it's key to know that the pandemic has just increased that appetite, increased that interest for Canadians in housing, in homes. And so the actual homes are amounting to, the investment in homes are amounting to a 37% of the overall investment, while business spending on machinery, equipment, intellectual property has actually dropped. So housing's up, investment in the business apparatus that obviously manufactures and provides services is actually down. So it just gives you the sort of reasons why, prices are up. It's a seller's market. It's a great place to be in terms of owning a home. And so millennials, so often you'll hear, demographics and people, for those of you who are more my age with the gray hair, and certainly, Alex being younger than me, the Boom, Bust, and Echo book often comes out. And it was one of the first efforts by Toronto, actually based U of T folks to write about demographics and the impact in the marketplace. And there's been a lot of attention paid to millennials. And so millennials are generally those who are aged 34 and under in Canada. And it's surprising because you think about that and you think, those folks generally probably wouldn't own homes. And I wonder if their aspirations are similar to the generation before them. Are they aspiring to own a home? And the answer is yes on both counts. So not only do they want to own a home and their aspirations are to own a home, their actual percentage of home ownership is much greater than most people would believe. So even in Toronto and Vancouver, it's almost 40% of millennials own a home. In Vancouver, 30%. And this compares with, like a Berlin or Paris, which is half of that amount. So it's really substantial. It's really important. And it's an important thing to understand in the GTA that all generations looking, millennials are kind of leading the way as the now. And there's often asked, and I know Alex often asked, so strong, why why is there multiple offers? Why are there at a sale? So one of the big stories is interest. I I financed a mortgage, my very first in about 1991, and I locked in a 5-year mortgage for 11.75%, thinking that was a great rate of interest, 11.75%. Right now, you can lock in a 5-year mortgage for about 1.6%. Just think about that for a second, 1.6%. So it's almost free money. It's almost no charge to the money. Now, what this graph shows is it shows you the ability to purchase based on if you could afford a $2,500 a month mortgage payment. So if you can afford a $2,500 a month mortgage payment, if interest rates were 6%, you'll see you could afford a $390,000 mortgage. And then you get to sort of we're between 1% and 2%. And look at the difference. It's between $590,000 and $665,000 in terms of the mortgage amount that you could have now based on current interest rates and to have a $2,500 per month payment. So this is one of the fundamental reasons why we're in a seller's market, why there are multiple offers, why prices are going up. They're not going down like CMHC had forecast, and they're not going to go down. They're continuing to go up. That is one of the strongest drivers of the current market here in the GTA and many of the areas in Canada. And so, frankly, the question is, if you can get these types of mortgage rates and you're having to rent or you're renting and you're paying $2,500 a month or more, it is a good time to buy. So it's important people understand, even though prices are going up, even though the market is hot, even though there are lots of buyers out there, there still is great opportunity. And Alex and I will go into some of those opportunities for buyers in the marketplace now to purchase if you're renting or you're looking, frankly, to trade up or trade down or other types of real estate transactions. So interest rates, mortgage rates are at historical lows, incredible lows. And so what this graph shows here is this graph shows the actual number of sales in the Metro Toronto area per year, and it breaks it down. So you've got 2016 here, and it breaks it down by, calls it house. And what that really means is it's a ground-oriented dwelling. So this, what we're talking about here is a single detached home or a semi-detached home. that is ground oriented. So homes, as you can see, 2016, 54,000 selling. There were about 47,000 in 2020. And it was down, of course, simply because there was a pause in the market for COVID, particularly in April, May, and part of June. So that's the reason what that's down. But you'll have heard in the media, particularly about the condominium market. And often it's been, fraught with negative news, right? Condominium prices, vacancy rates, rents, that sort of thing, all within a negative context. And so it's really important to take a step back and what does actually happening in this condo market. And as you can see, there's about 30,000 sales of condos in 2016, the far left chart here. And then 2020, there was about 23,000. So yes, there were fewer sales, but nowhere near the amount that you might imagine from some of the headlines and media that are out there. And so, and again, I'm not going to steal our future, but we're going to talk about condominiums and what a great opportunity they are now in the Greater Toronto Area marketplace. So again, just to be important to note, to step back, understand the market in 2020 performed well. 2021 is very strong, and the condominium market is performing well. It is not, in some sort of a distress situation or something like some of the media that you might read about. So we want to make sure that we inform you about that tonight. And so this slide really shows about, sellers versus buyers market versus a balanced market. And what does this all mean? So this chart is really a Canadian chart. So this chart goes into, are we in a seller's market, buyer's market, balanced market in a Canadian perspective? And what it really says is if there's about, up to 4 months worth of supply of homes. And so what that means is if there wasn't another home listed today, how long would it take for all the current homes that are available to sell? And if it's about 4 months or fewer months, you're looking at a seller's market. So we're certainly in Canada, we're certainly in a seller's market. And frankly, in the GTA, that number is even less. So a seller's market really here is more like 3 months or less. So that's really a seller's market. And we're into only a little over 1 month's worth of supply right now in the market in the GTA, just so you know. So it's an incredibly strong seller's market right now in the GTA. And again, so in Canada, seller's market, 4 to 5 months or less. In Toronto, it's more like 3 months or less. Balanced market in Canada, you're looking at about a 5 to 8 month sort of situation. So 5 to 8 months worth of supply. In Toronto, it's much more a 3 to 6 month thing as a balanced market. So 3 to 6 months worth of supply, and greater than that, obviously, would be a buyer's market. But we are in a strong seller's market in the GTA and frankly in Canada as well. And so that's where we're at. And condos are no different. So condos, again, I just wanted to make sure I put a good big perspective, big picture view on this. Condos are doing well. They certainly has been some slowdown, is what I would say, in the downtown part of the city of Toronto, so the 416. But prices are not down an awful lot. And frankly, it represents an opportunity that we're going to talk about with you again. So the condo market too is really in a seller's market throughout the GTA with some extra opportunities, I think, for you in the 416 right now. And so this final slide here, what I wanted to show you is just what's a very amazing second part to the market. So I talked about interest rates. I talked about how they're historically low, how you can get a 1.6% fixed 5-year mortgage. So that's fixed for 5 years, 1.6%. But the other part of this, and you'll often read about this in the media, is the debt burden that Canadians have, right? So they'll often look at the debt to income ratio. So how much debt does a Canadian have versus the income that they make? And it had peaked out sort of, as you can see from this chart, sort of peaked out in sort of 2018, 19, just less than 170%. So what that means is if you owed $170,000, the average person made $100,000 in income. So that's what that 170% is. It's 170,000 of debt over 100,000 of income, as an example. But that has gone down. So the situation during COVID has improved. So people have actually saved money, which they haven't done in a long time in Canada. They've saved money. There's a substantial amount of cash savings that are in bank accounts that people have saved since last year when COVID began. And so what that means is that the debt to income ratio has actually improved. It has decreased. So it's gone from that kind of almost 170% level down to almost 160%. So 10% doesn't sound like a lot, but that's substantial. That's amazing. That's a big number in terms of a grand macro picture of economics in Canada. So it's a second reason why you're going to see more people wanting to own homes, more people being able to invest, and why prices are going up and it's a strong market. Great interest rates. And secondly, people have paid off debt. They actually have more savings to put down as down payments to either purchase their first home or to trade up to another home. So another substantial important thing to remember. And with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to pass it off over to you, Alex, so you can share your screen.
Thank you, Cam.
Yeah, no problem.
Let me, bear with me.
Yeah. Perfect. I'm going to just turn my camera off here.
Sure. So, as you said, at long last, we are seeing the decline of COVID cases. We have been locked down for quite a while, but the good news is that the number of cases are finally starting to decline. We were stuck for a while, and we're hoping that the second wave is the last wave. You know, we have spring coming soon, which means less people, personal contact. And as the vaccines start to arrive and people start getting their shots, we're hoping that by the fall of this year, we'll be back to a more normal way of life, where we will have the majority of our population immune to the pandemic. It's interesting. Despite COVID, housing starts during 2020 actually surpassed 2019 levels, and we have been in a seller's market probably for about 18 years now, Cam, which is unheard of. As you pointed out, you got your first mortgage at 11%. I got my first mortgage in 1985, and it was 14%. And I fell on the ground and kissed the ground that I could get such a low mortgage. The 81, 82, 83, the interest rates were 22, 23%. But people still bought houses, even in those times. So the desire for home ownership is very, very high. We all want our piece of Canada. So while housing starts are increasing and the builders are trying to keep up with demand, let's take a look at, you've brought up condo pricing. And this is a chart showing condo prices over the last 16 months. And as you can see, the prices did peak out at about 600,000, and then they have had a small decline, and they're probably averaging about 575 right now. So there has been a small decline in condo prices, and that decline, we're going to talk about it a little bit more. But here's some interesting facts. This is from the Toronto Real Estate Board sales that were published in January. In January, let me see if I can get a pointer going. So as you can see, in January, there were 1,703 condominiums sold in 416 out of a total number of sales of approximately 7,800 sales. So 22% of all the transactions in January were actually condominium apartment sales. And the condo sales in 416 averaged 625,000, and there were 768 condominiums sold in 905, and they averaged 550,000, 547 to be exact. So despite the bad press, as you say, a lot of people are taking the opportunity to buy condominiums because they are what they can afford. The other side, which is really critical to understand, is I believe the reason why so many people have sold their condos and moved out into suburbia is the fact that a lot of millennials are getting married. A lot of millennials who were enjoying the downtown scene, once they have found a partner and once they're ready to settle down and have kids and they want a backyard, they want suburbia. And I think these two factors grew together, that they were selling condos, their condominium downtown condos, and buying in the suburbs at the same time as COVID hit. So with Airbnb also closing down because of COVID, or having difficulties, a lot of investors put their condominiums up for sale. So this is why I think we had a bit of a downturn in condominium prices. But the truth of it is that what was happening before is that the condominiums that are well located are selling at above asking. Those condominiums that are on the fringe areas, perhaps that were getting peak prices because there was nothing else, their excuse me, their location was not as good. Those are the ones who are sort of being having to change their prices in order to compete with those condominiums that are very, very well located. So I think that's what's happening in the market, is that condominiums represent a really great opportunity. And I think a lot of people, as you can see by the numbers in January, are turning to condominiums. And so the high demand for housing, as we have seen, is continuing. And the reason why it's continuing is, as you said, people have saved money. They are staying in Canada. They are investing in real estate. We know that recreation properties have gone up 25 to 35% as Canadians choose to spend money to stay in Canada. And the other thing that has occurred is the federal government has set immigration to be above 400,000 for the next 3 years. So in the next 3 years, by the end of 2023, we're going to have 1.2 million new Canadians in Canada. And so if we think of each family as being 4 people, that means we're going to need 400,000 households in Canada. And we know that approximately 60% are going to be coming to the GTA. So 60% of 400,000 is we're going to need 240,000 new homes for these people. And the builders are perhaps building 50, 60,000 new homes a year, including condominiums. So there's going to be a great shortage of housing. And that's why the price of homes in Toronto is going to keep growing. But within this market, we have some great opportunities. 70% of the home sales on TREB, the multiple listing service, are selling over asking price at 70%. And this represents a very, very hot market. But that means that 30% of the homes are selling at or below asking price. And so that gives buyers an opportunity to buy conditional on financing or inspection, and it gives you an opportunity to negotiate to perhaps get some better terms and conditions. And so the lesson here is twofold. Number one is you've got to deal with an agent who knows what they're doing. You need to deal with a full-time professional agent. Why I say full-time is, you know, there are 60,000 realtors on the Toronto Real Estate Board, and probably the average agent sells 2.5 to 3 houses a year. That's on average. Many of those realtors sell one house or zero houses a year. So everybody is not equal. And if you have somebody who has a different job and is only working to help you buy or sell your home part-time, it's not a good strategy for success, because their ideas, perhaps they're not as knowledgeable on the market or don't have enough time to spend on the market to help you. So number one is you should be dealing with a full-time agent. Number two is if you are cruising the internet, don't wait for a house that has all the best pictures and looks pretty. Because again, a lot of agents are not as professional or is not as committed. They may not be doing a service to the seller by staging the home or by taking professional pictures. You'll be surprised at how many agents don't post many pictures, or their pictures are awful. So if you find a house that the pictures don't look good, that might be a great house where there's less competition. Call your Realtron agent, let them show you the property and take a look at it, because today, if people don't see the perfect pictures, they are not interested in the house, which is that represents a great opportunity to buy that house. And second of all, if you find a house that you love, you've got to act right away, because the market is hot. As Cam pointed out before, here's the population by generation. As you can see, millennials are those children that were born from 1981 to 1996, and they represent 27.5% of our population. And the new generation is called Gen Z. They were born starting in 1997 up to 2012. So that generation is 23, 24 years old. And this is what they look like, with colorful, new styles, new everything. And the younger generation always want to live in downtown. They want to work, play, eat, and socialize downtown. And so this is why I think the condominiums are starting to recover, because the Gen Zs are young, but they're going to school. They want to live downtown. Their parents are a little bit more affluent, and their parents can help them with down payment. And when you're looking at the average price of a downtown condominium as being $625,000 at 1.5% interest, as Cam pointed out, these are cheaper than finding a rental place for these young kids. So this is our marketplace. This is today's buyers and renters. And as COVID subsides and as Airbnb comes back into play, a lot of homes that are currently rented will go back to Airbnb, and that's going to take away from the rental from the rental market, and rental prices will start to increase again. So there are opportunities in this marketplace, and one of those opportunities, as I said, is 416 condominiums. I think Cam and I both agree on that. And there's also the benefit of this is a great time to downsize. Cam, I wonder if you could come back in on the conversation. You and I were talking about the fact that for those couples who sort of started downtown with their condo and who sort of lived downtown, enjoyed the downtown single life, got married, moved into suburbia, had their kids, and now they're ready to do what?
Yeah, exactly. Now they're ready to move to something more lifestyle downtown, of course, right? So they
Right,
different needs, different
right,
aspirations now at a different point in their life. Yeah.
right. It's an interesting circle of life. And what I call it is the city is breathing. So as these young couples sort of form couples from downtown, move into the suburbs, have their kids, have their lifestyle. Now they say, okay, I'm tired of driving. I want to be able to walk to restaurants. I don't want to have my car anymore. And so we were talking about how it's a great time because the the condo market downtown is a great opportunity, and also the homes in suburbia are a great opportunity. So how would that play out?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The interesting thing, and one of the questions we've had so far was, where do we think prices are going to go up the most in the GTA? And it plays into a little bit of what we're talking about here, Alex. And so there's a few different things going on. So first off, there is a whole bunch with the pandemic of people, moving out of the city, which yes, there were a few people who probably moved out of the city earlier than they may have wanted to. They moved earlier because they could now work from home. They didn't have to be located close to their job. So there certainly was some of that. And there is still, some of that because there's a few people who are now realizing long term maybe they don't have to be downtown. So it's opened them up to a decision, really move forward, maybe a decision they're going to make anyhow. But a key thing then, and what you've said, Alex, and it's really important to all of the clients of our Realtron agents, is that the downtown of the city of Toronto is an exciting place to live, and it's a place that will always be in strong demand. And it's not just because the jobs are down there, right? It's because the entertainment's there. It's because the restaurants are there. It's because there's excitement going on. There's the lake right there, the lakefront to deal with, lots of recreational opportunities, lots of things to do.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you would say that now, especially with prices at pretty much all-time highs in suburbia, this might be a really great time for a couple that is thinking of downsizing to sell their suburban home, move downtown, because the big difference I think today with the condominium market is that prices may not be much different for the first class locations and first class buildings, but now there's a choice. So before there was one or two in your price range and you had to buy it or else. Now you may have a choice of five or seven. So you have a better chance of finding exactly the units that you're looking for in the buildings you're looking for and the locations that you're looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that represents a great opportunity. And of course, you mentioned refinancing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, even people that had mortgages at 3.5%, from 2, 3, 4 years ago, they're able to talk to their mortgage brokers now that can be referred by the Realtron agent, and it makes sense in lots of cases to break those mortgages and extend out at the new rates of 1.6. So a huge opportunity to refinance.
Right, right. And also in terms of investment, what do you think are good
Yeah.
investments?
Yeah, well, the first place I would point to, and again, a key thing in our job here in the realtors at Realtron, key job is to point you in areas where other people aren't looking, right? Because if you're going with the crowd, then it's too late, right? So the question that was posed, where's the place to go? So Durham prices have gone up like 10% a month over the last few months, and so what I would say to you is, if you're really looking for the investment opportunity, it's too late there, right? The prices have already started to go up, so you got to think, okay, where is the next one? And certainly a condo in downtown Toronto, absolutely, because that's where people aren't looking right now, but they will look very soon because, as you said, immigration, students coming back, Airbnb, it's all coming
Yeah.
back, and it's all going to come back quickly.
And that what we experienced last year, what we're experiencing now is a blip. And it's interesting. About 2 years ago, we saw the blip in detached homes in 905, where there was a glut of there was just so many of them. And we said, wow, this represents an opportunity. And over the next 3-4 months, they all sold. And now it's hard to find a detached home for a reasonable price. So
Yes.
you're right. You got to be ahead of the curve. And there's no, and again, Toronto is not unique. Look at New York, look at Paris, look at Berlin. You mentioned people want to socialize downtown. I mean, that is the single lifestyle, and the senior lifestyle as well. When you get to a certain age, you no longer want to cut the grass and plow and shovel your driveway.
Yeah.
So and it's nice not to have to drive a car. So all of those, I think, are great opportunities moving forward. And if we take a look at it, Cam, as of the end of the year, we ended off the year with the average price on the Toronto Real Estate Board being 929,000. And then in January, the prices jumped again to 967,000. And they would have been higher, except 25% of the houses sold were condominiums. And so that represents roughly an average of 600,000.
Yes.
So I think we drew up, how long ago did we draw up this chart?
Well, we redo it every year, but yeah, so we do it just in advance of the year. So it would have been December. We redid it just to add in some numbers, and we're always conservative, right, Alex? But yeah, I think even, we might have just increased our conservative numbers a bit, knowing now what we know. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if I can get a little bit of a thing. Okay, Cam, thanks. Let me continue on. So prices in Canada since 1973, if you guys can see that, have increased an average of 6.74%. What we did is saying, okay, up to now they've increased by almost 6.75%. Let's be conservative. So we drew this chart saying, okay, what happens if prices go up by 3% a year? And here's what happens to prices. And by 2035, the average price is going to be 1.4% in Toronto. And in this chart, the red one, we say, what happens if the average price goes up by 5%? And as you can see, it's significantly more. And honestly, I think these numbers are very conservative. So by 2035, we're seeing the average price in Toronto as being 1.8 million. And I know you think it's crazy, but that's based on 5%. Looking back 10 years ago, you would have never imagined that the average house in Toronto would be $1 million. So, yeah, prices are going to continue going up because of the fact that there's an old saying, have you bought your land yet? We're not making anymore. So coming back to opportunities, multiple offers are a fact of life. And this is where a professional full-time Realtron agent can help you, because there are ways to improve your chances in a multiple offer. And this is where a good agent will help you. One is to make sure you're pre-qualified so you don't need conditional on financing. Another is your agent can direct you to get a pre-inspection so the property doesn't have to be pre-inspected. One big thing that a lot of agents do not present or do not even try to present offers, they just email them in to the other agent. And our agents do their best to present the offer whenever possible to explain why your offer is the best. And at the same time, to say if what else does the seller want? So let's see if we can get it for you. And our agents are very, very successful. And of course, one of the most important things is to have a certified check, or at least a picture of a certified check saying, hey, our buyer is serious. They've gone to the bank. Here's a copy of the bank draft or the certified check. The money is in hand. We're ready to do this deal. My clients are serious. So these are little ways that our agents can help you win in a multiple offer situation. This was a post somebody posted on Facebook, and I've X'd out the name of the company. Yesterday, I had a pleasure of dealing with such and such company for the first time. My wife and I saw the house on the market that we liked and wanted to put in an offer. I couldn't talk to the listing agent because with this company, the agent gets assigned to it only when an offer is submitted. As I was preparing the offer around 7:30, I get a text message that another offer was registered for that property. By the time I finished and submitted it, it was around 8:30. Nobody got back to me until the next morning when a realtor called me to tell me that my offer was just received because their offer desk is open only until 8 p.m. and the seller had already signed back the first offer without ever seeing mine. The sign back was accepted and we lost the house. Thank you, such and such company. I'm sure the seller would be happy to know that they missed out on a perfectly good multiple offer situation because their listing brokerage doesn't accept offers after 8 p.m. and this is the story we continually hear, and this is why, we are open 24 hours a day. Our staff answers the phone 24 hours a day because we know how important the sale of your home is. And our job as realtors is to get as many offers, is to show, to be available for you, to book appointments. You'd be surprised on a weekend at how many offices are closed. And if you're listed with that company, nobody can see your home because the office is closed. And again, we're open 7 days a week for appointments. We're open 7 days a week for messages. We want to make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure that our clients and our agents' clients are looked after and protected. So that's what makes us so good. And that's why we're one of the top companies in Canada. So to finish off, before we get to questions, we strongly encourage you to work with your Realtron agent to scour the market for opportunity. The best agents the best buying opportunities are not always listed on the market. We have several sources of exclusive listings. We are affiliated with other companies that only do exclusives, and we do our best to scour opportunities for our clients, and that's why it's important for you to make sure you deal with the right agent. So thank you all for listening to me, and now let's open it up to questions and see if we can answer any questions out there.
Great. So thanks.
Jeremy, you want to take the screen back?
Yeah, let's just, I think we can just stop the share. Can we stop the share? Yeah.
Let me see. Okay.
Okay. How's that? Oh, Alex, I think you just have to stop your share.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been writing down questions as we went, and I had 2 or 3 that I'll keep for the end that were emailed. I never know if the people who emailed the questions are actually on, so let's get to the ones that from the people that were here. Ron asked, where can an agent get the sales and marketing data, market statistics and everything? I guess Ron might be an agent, maybe outside of Realtron, looking for some data. So give Ron an idea of where he can start to gather some real estate data information, market statistics and such. Cam, you want
to? First of all, sorry, I look like Cam, so I'll take it first.
There you go.
First of all, that's the job of the provide tools and information for you, so you can service your clients properly. If you're not getting that information, then the secondary source is the Toronto Real Estate Board or the Ontario Real Estate Association, depending on where you are, if you're a member of the Toronto Real Estate Board. Where the company comes in is we get our information from several sources, and then we try to put it together in a format that's easy to understand, and that's useful to our agents. So I would say start with your brokerage first. That's why you're with that brokerage, for the service that they provide you.
And just one caution to everybody, there's just like anything else, there's lots of, I'll call it, data that's online about anything, including the real estate industry. And the challenge for all consumers, right, is to get through that information, analyze it, and actually turn it into knowledge, right? Nuggets of knowledge that you can make decisions on. And that's where your realtor comes in. You can know about all the homes that sold on your street for different prices, but if you don't know the reasons why it sold for a different amount, you don't understand why yours should sell for more or less depending on the situation. So just always be wary. There's tons and tons of information available on the online for anything these days, but there's very little knowledge, and you need an expert to discern that information down to knowledge to make the best decisions for you and your family. And a REMAX Realtron Realtor could do that for you.
Great. And great point about where the information is coming from. Be careful about what you read and who's writing it, because you can turn statistics into anything. Okay, great. Shanna asked in our chat there, what are your thoughts on income property, buying property in addition to owning primary residence? I think we're all big advocates of that. Who wants to fire away with what the best part of owning income property is?
Go ahead, Cam.
Sure. Yeah. Well, one of the fundamental things about investing is the rate of financing, right? So, what do you have to pay to borrow money to make an investment? And again, right now is the lowest ever in Canadian history. So, you just can't beat the financing conditions right now to purchase an investment property. And then just be smart, right? With your expert realtor, look for the smart opportunities like Alex and I have mentioned. So, condos downtown, maybe it's not the inner 905, but the outer 905, right? So, maybe it's the Barries, the Whitbys, the Hamiltons to get some good investment properties. So just you got to be smart in the marketplace, but now is a great time because you can finance at rates that you just never ever could have in the history of Canada before. So it's a good investment opportunity, real estate, and to hold long term, and a great way to develop wealth for your retirement for you and your family going forward.
Let me put a little bit of a damper on this conversation, but its reality is the majority of Canadians who retire, the only asset they have is their house. And then the choice comes in as, okay, you have your house that you've lived in for 50 years. How do you pay the mortgage? Sorry, let's assume it's paid off. How do you pay the taxes? How do you pay heat and hydro? How do you put food on the table? And so as a senior citizen, unless you have made plans, and unfortunately, most people do not, they retire with nothing but their house and are forced to sell their house and go into a rental because they can't afford to keep up the house. Buying an investment property today, 20 years from now, it's paid off, income is coming in, and that will allow you to at least keep your house and keep up the payments and at least have a life. So I think, and let's put it this way: there's going to be issues with buying a rental property. Will tenants give you trouble? Well, you've got to be careful with the tenants that you pick, and that's where a good realtor will help you as well. They will look at the tenant, they will give you their score, they will tell you, they'll do some investigation. Are they a good tenant? And if you don't buy an investment property, there's going to be problems. If you buy an investment property, there'll be fewer problems. But at least by buying one or two investment properties, you're going to be able to enjoy your golden years. Without an investment, it's very difficult. So we're strong proponents of investing in real estate.
And just to be clear, the residential part of the real estate market is the best place to invest. It's the most stable and it's the least cyclical to the economy and to marketplace. So our realtors are often asked, and I don't know if this was part of the question, should I invest in an apartment? Should I invest in an office building? Should I invest in a retail strip mall? Should I invest in land? Should I invest in, industrial properties? So right now, and always residential is a great place to invest. What isn't a great place to invest, and this is why residential is so strong, is obviously you don't want to be buying retail and office right now, right? That's not a great place to put in your money. But residential is always strong because people have to live somewhere, and that's why it's such a strong fundamental place to invest.
Right. And I mean, look at the rents; they've gone through the roof. Basement apartments 2 years ago, I'm assuming were 12 to 1400 a month for basement apartments.
Yeah.
So yeah, people have to live somewhere. As we pointed out, there's definitely shortages of homes because we just cannot keep up with the immigration and with people moving from other parts of Canada to Toronto, which is the hub, the heartbeat of the country. We've got, so it's a time of opportunity. And I think there's two things that COVID has brought us in a sense. I think a lot of industries are going to try to stay within Canada rather than going out of Canada. I think the governments have realized and people have realized that, hey, we want industry back in the country because in case of situations like this, we need our own manufacturing rather than giving away our manufacturing to other people. And the second thing is, when COVID first started, everybody thought, okay, everybody's going to work from home. And the truth of it is, most companies are saying, hey, we want our employees back in the offices. Maybe not 100% of the time, but 60% of the time. So companies will still want their employees to come in a couple of days a week to work. And if you're a downtown company, that means people will still want to live downtown.
Great points.
So yes, invest in real estate.
Yeah, I was just thinking, based on what you said, it's hard to find someone who bought one investment property 20 years ago and hasn't bought another one since. Usually
Right.
own several, so that's a good indication of that. Just to piggyback on that, Terry Moshenberg just asked, even with the current low interest rates, his investor client is saying that she doesn't want to invest in a rental property yet because of uncertainty in our economy. She blames our government. Is there a reaction to the objection? My first instinct is, with low interest rates, with so much being built, inflation is kind of starting to take hold, and cost of new construction is getting up there. So the gap has never been so big between a resale and new. It's a great opportunity, and you can take advantage of the interest rate by paying off more of your mortgage in the first few years. Anything to add?
Yeah, just the long-term trend. Alex referred to the net immigration, right? 1.2 million people moving into the GTA 2021, 22, 23, which is an increase of 100,000 per year. Those people need homes. There's not enough being built. They've got to look to resell. And so the fundamentals, regardless of anything of the economy, right? So if you think the economy is, going to be up and down for a bit, I would disagree, but it doesn't really matter. I don't need to agree with you. The purchase of a apartment building or a residential place to invest into rent is a strong investment because people are moving into the city and they need a place to live. Simple as that.
Yeah. And if you don't, I don't want to, be flippant with it, but like Cam said before, you've got to look at the trends. And, there's years where things go down and years where things go up. But in general, if you can get past today's news, I mean, those people who listened to the head of the CMHC last March, by the way, Cam, his first prediction was 30%. The market would drop 30%. Then 2 months later, he said it was only going to drop 18%. And it went up, about 11%?
Yes.
So that's how far out he was. So if you had panicked and listened to him, then you would have sold and you would never be able to get back in the market. So you've got to ignore the headlines. You've got to ignore your day-to-day fears and sort of look at the trend. And if you think that Toronto is going to keep growing and keep expanding, like New York, like Paris, like Berlin, like Vancouver, like London. I mean, if you could go back in time and buy properties in New York, would you? If you could go back in time and buy properties in London, would you? So you have the opportunity to be right here in Canada and buy at today's prices in Canadian dollars. By the way, that's another reason why foreign buyers love Canada. Not only are we very stable, not only do we have a great political system and we're open to all cultures and religions, but most other countries deal in US dollars. So if you come with 500,000 US, you can actually buy a $750,000 Canadian property. So we are a great bargain to foreigners, and that's why our prices are going up, and that's why so many people invest in Canada. So look at the trends. If you think the population in Toronto is going to keep growing, Barrie, Kitchener, Guelph, all these, Durham, as you pointed out, Cam, all of these bedroom communities are growing because there's a lot of population growth. So that means that prices will continue to grow. And so whoever was asking that question, Jeremy,
Yeah.
sometimes you can't convince everybody, but right now, everybody, the majority of people want to buy. So maybe that buyer has to be left on the sidelines, and that agent has to go find some other people who are willing to go shopping because it's a great opportunity. Sometimes, we have to listen to the clients, and if they're not ready, then they're not ready. We can't force them.
So as you answered that great answer, Terry said, "I'm trying to convey this to her, ugh," but now agrees that yes, there are tons of buyers out there, and it's a reminder not only to the agents who are struggling with some buyers who are not adapting to this market, like some buyers that don't adapt to every market. We as agents have to just adapt, and not every patient can be saved. But not everyone has the temperament to buy at every time in every market.
Last March, April, when 50% of the houses that should have sold, where everybody was panicking about what's going to happen with COVID, those individuals who have the guts to go out and buy and buck the trend, which is, Cam, what you were saying, they went against the trend. They were able to buy great opportunities, and they were, they had great buys and were able to improve their status or their investment ability. That was a quick return on their investment because prices have shot through the roof. They did very well. But the future for Toronto is that prices will continue to grow. Just as a closing remark, just show that chart, which we just saw, to that lady, and she's got to be looking at 5 or 10 years, not at 2 months. Somebody who's looking at what's going to happen in 2 months is not an investor, it's a gambler. We don't deal with gamblers. We deal with investors, people who look at the facts, look at the information, look at the long-term projection.
Great point. Okay, Avi is looking for information on getting auto updates for virtual open houses, more specific data than Realtor.ca could just provide, or other sites for specific, push data like being emailed information on foreclosures and power of sale. One of the great tools that we as, every agent has access to, but not every agent is using, programs like Collab. And now Matrix has a good system that's available to Toronto Real Estate Board agents. If they're savvy and they can use it properly, they can get you all that data. So most your Realtron agent should be able to provide you that data.
Lost it.
I don't freeze when you guys talk.
Again.
You froze there, Jer.
So for some reason, when you guys are
access to are dated. Jeremy's frozen again, but things online are usually dated, so it's usually way past, and it's already too late by the time you're onto it. So really, this is the time to get a professional to be on the market to find you both off market, whether that's power of sale, whether that's exclusive, whether that's assignment sales for condo, which is a huge market, by the way. And you never would see that there's tons of assignments out there to buy right now in the condo market. You need a great realtor to help you, that sort of stuff. So
great.
And I don't know if Jeremy, are you doing okay there, Jeremy?
Okay,
yeah.
Am I back? I think I'm back.
Yeah, you're back. You're back on. Yeah.
Only when I have something clever to say. Your whole presentations were perfect. Okay. Preetha asked, it's hard to find a house in multiple offers, and she's got a property to sell. Should she put it on the market and sell so she can be more aggressive to buy, or should she wait till she finds something to buy? I think it's the age-old question, buy first or sell first.
Yeah, and your realtor can advise you best in terms of your situation. But in this market, as long as you're not completely inflexible, right? There's tons of options. You certainly can sell, know what you've got, money in hand before you buy. That's not a huge risk in the marketplace. But again, your particular situation really dictates, and that's where a realtor can make sure before you or you sell first, right? And so in this market again, if you're flexible, you can buy, right, and then you can certainly sell your home and not be in a big risk situation.
Great.
Are
Okay.
you frozen, Jeremy? Or are you? Oh,
No,
okay,
I'm
good.
good.
Okay, good.
I'm good. I'm good.
Sure.
Next question. Okay. What do we have? Oh, Ken has a condo downtown. It's sitting vacant. It's been vacant for a few months. Hesitant to rent it because of uncertainty with COVID and with tenants' quality and things like that. Should he just sell it? Should he just take what he can get and rent it, or should he wait?
No. You don't
do
sell
nothing.
investment
Don't sell
properties. I would ask Ken, why haven't you rented it? The rental market is very strong. Yes, rents have come down. So a year ago, let's say you were getting $2,200 for rent. Today you might get $2,000 for rent. And the reason it's come down is because we have first of all, as we said, there's been some people have gone to the suburbs. They put their condos for sale. Airbnb is usually 20 to 30,000 units have been taken up by Airbnb. And so those people who would normally be with Airbnb and so they might have entered into a 1-year lease or 2-year lease. And so, yes, there's going to be a shortfall of what you could expect for rent for a year or two, but the rents will recover as soon as Airbnb comes back, which it will. Once COVID is more in control, and we're hoping by the fall of this year, Airbnb travel will be back. 20, 30,000 units will be gone from the market. And yeah, you're going to look back and be sorry you sold your investment. The question is, why is it vacant? I mean, yes, you may want $2,200 a month for it, and you don't want to take $2,000. But if you've kept it vacant for 3 months, you've lost $6,600. If you leased it for $1,900, you would have lost $300 for 12 months. You would have lost $3,600. By keeping it vacant for 3 months, you've already lost $6,600. 2 years of value. So sometimes it's better to take a short-term loss, or subsidize it for a year or two until the rents recover, and then put it back up on the market. But there's no reason the place should remain vacant. And by the way, here's a word of warning. If the place is worth $2,000 a month to rent, and you're insisting on getting $2,200, you're going to take longer. As I said, 3 months is going to cost you $6,600. But more important, you're going to end up with somebody who is willing to pay you your $2,200 because their credit score is bad and they're not a strong tenant. And you're going to end up with a tenant from hell, because the only people who are going to take a bad deal because they can get another property at $2,000, they're only going to accept your $2,200 is because there's problems. So it's better to take a little bit less and rent to a good family who has a good track record and is secure than going for an extra $100 a month or $200 a month and ending up with a poor tenant that'll give you problems. So yeah, never sell.
Great advice. Great advice. Okay. I think my house will do better than a condo for investment. This is from May. I think my house will do better than a condo for investment, but I feel like it's also time to downsize. But she's sort of just waiting for the right time to downsize. Should she do it now? Should she wait? Should prices go up? I always feel like it's a gamble, and it's more important to live where you want to live. Should May sell her property and downsize? Yeah. She's living on her own.
Go ahead, Cam.
Yeah, well, there's lots of options. So again, this is such a personal decision, but let me just throw in a few ideas on the table here. So if your lifestyle has changed and you really you're in a big house by yourself and a lot of empty space that you're heating and cleaning and worrying about the snow removal and that sort of thing, it's a lifestyle decision. What a great time to downsize. And but what if you do this? What if you downsize and buy two condos? You buy one condo you live in, you rent a condo, right? What a neat thing that would be right now, right? So your $2 million house in Thornhill, you get two $1 million condos. You rent one, covers itself and more for you, and you live in the other one. There's just an idea, right, for you. So again, certainly base your decisions on your lifestyle. If you're in a big home and it's just you and you've got a lot of work associated with it, yeah, make a change, but it doesn't mean you got to put the money in the bank and wonder what you're going to do with it. You could certainly invest in an investment property at the same time. Just an idea.
Great advice, Cam.
Yeah,
And
really
as
good.
Jeremy was saying, you can't really time the market, but in a sense, we know that detached homes right now are really selling for a premium, and we know that downtown condominiums are a good value. So this is the time that I would certainly recommend selling your suburban home and moving downtown if that's what you plan to do next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for people who are wanting to downsize and think I still have time, I still have time. My experience is people say they have time, and then one day they wake up and they say it's too late, and it's too late, and they're stuck in their house. And nothing worse than going into a seller's house who needs to sell, who isn't able to pack up themselves, can't get upstairs to their bedroom, all those things. So do it while you can is my advice as well. Anonymous caller or writer asked if we could talk a little bit about region by region price growth. What areas are better? We've talked a lot. You mentioned Durham being such an unbelievable market, and their price growth has been unbelievable. But maybe talk a little bit about what areas, we talked about the condo opportunities. What other areas are doing well? What are poised for growth? And where would you invest? Take out your crystal ball. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, well, so there's 2 points to investing. Yes, one is to have a home to live in, the other is to have an investment property. So I guess on both counts, we've already mentioned the 416 condo opportunity. So certainly that's a great opportunity right now. And it's the opposite situation. So Alex and I, and you could look back at our YouTube videos, and after the spring of 2017, the 905 market really slowed. So Newmarket, Aurora, Stouffville, all these markets really, really slowed. And we were saying at that time, buy there. And so now we're saying buy downtown condo, exact same reason, right? Because people weren't doing it, weren't buying. And those people who bought in 2018, 19 in those areas, they're up like 30% on their prices over a few years, right? And if it's their own home, that's all capital tax free. And if it's investment property, they've done very well. So condo certainly. But I would say if you're more interested in the home and and this is an investment opportunity, the prices have certainly gone up substantially in I'll call it the inner suburbs. The outer suburbs or bedroom communities are where the bigger price growth is going to be. So I talked about Durham, and it's like 10% a month right now. So it's really gone beyond probably if it's an investment where you'd want to go. But then you can get into the outer, you can get into Whitby, Oshawa, you can get up into Guelph, as Alex had said,
Yeah.
Hamilton, St. Catharines, some of these areas, Barrie's, some of
Yeah.
these areas are fantastic opportunities.
Yeah, Barrie
Yeah.
has grown tremendously.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of infrastructure being built. And if you take a look at the arteries, Barrie is on the 400. The other community that's gone through the roof is Keswick,
Yes.
because it's on the 404. So properties in Keswick have really gone through the roof as well. So these bedroom communities of Durham, Stouffville, Barrie, Guelph, if you take a look at a Keswick Newmarket used to be in the outskirts. Now it's not anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Richmond Hill, Newmarket, now they're part of the city. But all the, rents in these communities are very, very similar to rents in downtown in Toronto. And yet the prices are much cheaper. So you can get some really nice houses in these communities at a fraction of the price.
Yeah, let me just throw a wrench in this a little bit. Different thought there. A year or two ago, or maybe even 3 years ago, a lot of buyers who were buying in Richmond Hill, Vaughan, those areas who couldn't afford it, we're moving east. Did I freeze again? Did I freeze again? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. A lot of people who are
So
moving,
they went to Vaughan, you're saying?
they were trying to buy in Vaughan, and they decided I'm going to buy in Ajax and Pickering instead because they couldn't afford what they wanted in Richmond Hill and Vaughan. Now that gap has shrunk dramatically. If you own property in Durham and you've always wanted to live in York Region, for example, or somewhere else, you have a little bit of mobility that you didn't have a year or 2 or 3 years ago. So time to look for where you really want to be long term and get that dream home. Take advantage of the shrinking gap that's out there, because there are amazing opportunities for those people.
You're right, Jeremy, on two fronts. One is the prices, let's say Durham, have gone up. So now you've got more equity. And at the same time, interest rates have come down. So it costs you less to carry more of a mortgage. So it's a double whammy. Good point, Jeremy.
Yeah, good one.
You're
Good.
not just a pretty face, are you?
No, not just. I also freeze. Okay, a couple more questions. Let's try and get the last couple. Looking at the market today, what's more beneficial in the long run, buying a condo downtown or buying a bungalow in Toronto as an investment? That's a really interesting thing. For me, it's the PETA factor, the pain in the, are we allowed to say ass factor, of owning a freehold property that scares me and makes me love condos because they're easy to manage. And the only thing that can break is the sink or the toilet.
Well, yeah. Well, sorry, everybody has it. That's your concern.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is the carrying cost. So if you could get a property that can carry itself, then I would get a property. But unfortunately, most detached or single homes don't carry. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, so, a great thing about bungalows sometimes is, so as we all know, there's a shortage of land and there's a need for intensification. And so there's a need for basement apartments. And so municipalities are ripe for allowing you to put in legal basement apartments in bungalows, particularly in parts of the city like East York, Scarborough, north of Etobicoke, some of these places, the 1,100 square foot bungalows that were 2 bedrooms often and 1 washroom. You can put a beautiful, nice basement apartment in them. And now you got 2 units where you cover your risk. You've got more to cover your cost. And that can be a great investment for you. So, so certainly those are still out there as investments as well. They do a little bit more work, as Jeremy says, but often there'll be even a little bit more reward for you.
But the answer comes down to, if it has so thank you, Cam. If it has the potential of creating a unit or has the income potential to carry itself, then there's no problem. Then I would go for a single family dwelling because you don't have the maintenance and everything else. But it's harder to find and harder to do. But if you can, it is better. But it's got to carry. So if you're looking at buying a bungalow and let's say it carries for $3,000 a month, if you can do a basement apartment and you're making your $3,000 a month, then it carries. But if you can only rent it for $2,000 or $2,500 and you're losing $500 a month, that's what I don't like. I like my investments to almost carry or a little bit of a profit, one or the two. Does that sort of clarify that?
Yeah, great advice. Sakshi says, great, thanks for the information. Last question, sounds like a realtor, but it's anonymous. I don't know who it is. 2 buyers want to back off because they're afraid to buy in a hot market with very high prices. Their question is, how can the agent convince them? But more likely, what should people do if you're watching this? If they were intent on buying a home in October, they missed the prices. November, they missed the prices. December, missed the prices. January, they missed the prices. What are people to do if they're out there right now trying to buy a property?
Don't miss the prices in March. Get it in February.
The best time to buy a property was yesterday. The second best time is today.
Right.
if you feel prices in Toronto are going to increase, then you can't time the market. And, the average person, if you're buying an investment property right now, as we said, there's great investment opportunities. It comes down to the demand is high, the shortages are coming, interest rates are low, so you can carry it for less. So as we said before, let's say a condominium used to be, you could rent it for $2,400. Today you can rent it for $2,200. But 3 years ago, your mortgage would have cost you $2,400. Now the mortgage costs you $2,000. So you're still ahead.
And show them the chart that you used, Alex, right? The projections going forward. That's a fantastic chart to put everything in perspective for people about why now is a good time to buy.
Yeah, things. Either you believe that prices are that the population of Toronto will grow, or you don't. If you believe that the population of Toronto will grow, then prices will continue to grow. If you feel that the population in Toronto will start to shrink, that's a good time to sell. So you can't suck and blow. Either it's going to improve or it's not going to improve.
And I always think that people get caught up in the price of the property and the amount of their mortgage and the extra little bit or the difference. You're forgetting how good it feels to walk into your house, to not allow someone else to sell it and have to make you move, to own your property, to invite your friends over and show them your property that you own, and to have somewhere you can call home the rest of your life. I think ultimately, sometimes we forget about that simple idea. And I think we learned a lot about it when COVID hit and a lot of investors in property wanted to free up some cash. And all of a sudden there were renters who now had people walking through their home at an uncertain time. They had to move at an uncertain time. Let's not forget how great home ownership is. And if we focus on that, you got to buy a property and you got to live there. Last question from Amir. The future of Innisfil versus Barrie. I don't know. It's very specific. I would guess as Barrie goes, Innisfil will go, but I am not an expert on Barrie or Innisfil. Any experts out there?
Well, it all comes back to, are you moving there for yourself? And if you're living there, then it's a question of which community do you like the best? If you're looking at investments, then look at the rate of return of a rental property. Don't look at, if you buy a property for $500,000 and sell it for 500 and sell it for 600,000, you've made 100,000 profit theoretically. And why I say theoretically, because you've got to pay real estate fees, you've got to pay legal fees, you've got to pay closing costs, and you've got to pay the government 25% capital gains tax. So you think you made 100,000 profit. When it all settles, it's 60,000 profit. Then you go out and buy a car and it's gone. And in 4 years' time, the car is gone too. So my philosophy is the purpose of an investment property is to rent it out. If today you're renting it out for $2,000 a month, in 20 years, your mortgage is paid off and you're getting a net $2,000 a month. I know there's going to be inflation and everything else. That's $2,000 a month in your pocket for the rest of your life. If you're looking at buying today, selling tomorrow, you're speculating, you're not investing. So you got to decide which one it is. I believe in investing and not speculating.
I mean, specific to Innisfil versus Barrie, I would say that, it's, as Jeremy said, it's a really specific question about a market area. And we have some great agents who specialize in that area. I mean, I broadly, obviously, Innisfil is a little bit close to the city. You got the lake close to it. So I think it's probably a great growing area, but definitely get an agent to make, help you make the best decision in that regard. The Realtron agent.
And it comes down to, is it investment or are you going to live there? And I mean, there's condos now being built in Barrie that are great value compared to Toronto. So all sorts of big investment is going all around Toronto because all of the builders see that the city is expanding. Okay, was there a last question, Jeremy?
That
Okay, you're muted, but I think you're back, Jeremy. You're muted, Jer.
I'm back. Sorry. Thank you so much. That was the last question. And as my computer freezes for the last time of the night, thank you so much, Alex and Cam. This was great. I hope everyone out there can see our passion for not only educating our clients and our agents, but our passion for real estate, home ownership, real estate investment. We're here for you to answer your questions, and your REMAX Realtron agent is here for you to help you navigate the market. So thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to all the realtors who are joining us. Thanks to all the buyers and sellers and just the people curious about the market. And finally, thanks, Cam and Alex. Have a great night.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Yeah, thank you. Take care. Have a good evening.